And now, Russia. Well, Russia was mentioned fairly rightly and fairly naturally. So often during our discussions, and not only during our discussions, Russia always crops out as a certain issue which should be addressed when we are discussing NATO and NATO policy. And now we have a very prominent analyst from Russia, Mr. FyodorLukyanov, and I do hope that you will address these issues which were raised here. And I really also would like you to address the problem which has been mentioned several times here. After all, NATO wants to see Russia as a partner. NATO never considers Russia as a potential threat, and it looked to us that this is, at least for quite a long time, it has been reciprocated. And let me quote what was written in US-Russia strategic framework in 2008, when it is explicitly written that both sides consider the time when they consider themselves to be enemies as finished, as ended. So I do not want also to return to OSCE summit in Istanbul, where the same declarations were actually approved by all member parties, including obviously Russia. And that's why to include as number one potential threat to Russia, NATO, and to consider that NATO enlargement would be to the detriment of Russian security interests is something which is a bit puzzling. And that's why I really would like you to address also this issue, and also the issue of the new security structures which Russia is advancing in the form of so-called Medvedev plan, and to which you devoted the whole the essay which you wrote together with Mr. Bordashov, I think. Oh no, it's not Bordashov and Karaganov. Sorry, but nevertheless, it were people from the Russian Global Affairs. So well. I mentioned just some issues, but I do hope that you will also raise and consider the issue of the shortcomings of Russia-NATO Council, because this was supposed to be the panacea for our problems and for our discussions. It seems that the working of this council probably is seen as very unsatisfactory. And could you also sort of address and assess the performance of this body as it's seen in Russia? Fyodor.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you for this invitation. I really enjoyed all panels, and I think it's a very interesting and substantial discussion. It's a big honor for me to participate. Of course, it's a big burden to be the only one representative from Russia at such a distinguished gathering, because those questions you put and those questions which were put in previous panels do not match the necessity to be 10 minutes, to make 10 minutes presentation. So I will try to be as brief and as to make just points about the general view. And I hope that from this general view, a couple of concrete questions will be more clear than before. So, first, two general observations about how the outside world looks like from Moscow, from Russia. Observation number one is that international situation in the early 21st century is very unstable, generally very unstable, is basically in flux. And the main characteristic of the current world situation is gradual but rather rapid decline of all institutions inherited from the previous times. That means, the conclusion from that is that if so, it does not make much sense to try to integrate into existing institutions if they are changing and probably declining, and that will make more sense to wait whether we will arrive to the new situation, to new constellation of powers, and then decide about membership or non-membership in certain institutions. That means that basically, from the point of view of many in Russia, status quo does not exist. Status quo did exist during the Cold War, then it disappeared, and since that we never got it back. In this regard, many speakers today mentioned rules of the game which Russia do not observe. The question is, where are the rules? Because since 89 and 90, so much change in the world profoundly that it's very difficult to see which rules are still there, or still available, and which rules have been abandoned. Observation number 2, we are facing the profound change in international balance of powers. European area at large, for the first time since many centuries, ceases to be centerpiece of international agenda. Asia is rising. Asia is changing the whole discourse in the world, for United States, for Russia, for Europe, for everybody, including the former so-called Third World, which at least partly is starting to see China as a main patron or main partner. That means that a lot of observations from previous period, when we thought, or we were in the center of the whole international agenda, are probably less relevant today than 10 or 20 years ago.